Sarah, maybe you should focus less on questioning the numbers and more on actually earning them. Derek Thompson's voice carried across the champions table just loud enough for the remaining customers to hear. Sarah Washington's fingers tightened around her time card as she stood at the register, 8 hours of documented work somehow reduced to 0 on her paycheck. The man at table 7 lowered his newspaper. His worn jacket and scuffed shoes suggested someone counting every dollar, but his eyes held a sharpness that didn't match his appearance. He'd been watching this exchange with growing intensity, something calculating behind his quiet observation of the closing routine. Derek stepped closer to Sarah, his voice dropping to a patronizing whisper. Some people just aren't cut out for our standards here. Maybe it's time you considered that. So, what Derek didn't realize was that his broke customer at table 7 owned everything in sight. The restaurant, the building, even the fraudulent register system stealing from his employees. And what this billionaire was about to discover would expose a conspiracy that made Derek's workplace cruelty look like child's play. Sarah Washington's day began at 5:47 a.m. with the sound of her sister Keisha's labored breathing. The 16-year-old's asthma had worsened since they'd lost their parents' insurance, and Sarah's current plan through the champions table barely covered the inhalers. She checked Keisha's temperature, normal, and left a note with medication reminders before heading to her 7 a.m. shift. The champions table sat in downtown Austin's bustling entertainment district, its brick facade and neon signs promising Texas-sized portions and championship service. Sarah had worked here for 18 months, drawn by Derek's promises of career advancement and the restaurant's reputation among locals. What she'd found instead was a maze of arbitrary rules and constantly shifting expectations. She punched her time card at 6:58 a.m., the machine's green light confirming her arrival. The restaurant buzzed with morning prep, coffee brewing, fryers heating, servers setting up their stations. Sarah moved with practiced efficiency, refilling salt shakers and checking table settings while mentally calculating her bills. Rent was due in 6 days. Keisha needed new textbooks. The electricity bill sat unopened on their kitchen counter. "Team meeting in 5 minutes, Derek announced from behind the bar. At 38, he carried himself with the aggressive confidence of someone who'd clawed his way to middle management and intended to protect his territory. His polo shirt bore the Champions Table logo, and he wore his manager's badge like a medal. The staff gathered in the break room, 6 servers, 3 bartenders, and 2 kitchen workers. Derek stood at the front, clipboard in hand, his expression serious. "Corporate's been reviewing our efficiency numbers," he began, his tone suggesting this was somehow the employee's fault. "We're not meeting expectations in labor costs. That means we all need to work smarter, not harder." Sarah exchanged glances with Maria Gonzalez, a veteran server who'd taught her the ropes. They both knew Derek's efficiency speeches usually meant more work for the same pay. "Effective immediately, we're implementing new break schedules," Derek continued. 15 minutes instead of 30, and I'll be personally reviewing all time cards to ensure accuracy. His eyes lingered on Sarah and the other servers of color. Some people seemed to be confused about their actual hours worked. The lunch rush hit like a tidal wave. Sarah moved between her 6-table section with practiced grace, balancing plates, refilling drinks, and maintaining the warm professionalism that earned her regular customers. Table 12, the elderly couple who came in every Tuesday, specifically requested her. Table 15 left a note praising her knowledge of the menu's allergen information, crucial for their diabetic daughter. During her shortened break, Sarah calculated her hours, 42 for the week, including yesterday's double shift. But when she checked the computer terminal where Derek logged their final timesheets, her jaw tightened. The system showed 34 hours. "Excuse me, Derek." She approached him during the afternoon lull, her tone carefully respectful. "I think there might be an error in my timesheet." Derek didn't look up from his phone. "What kind of error?" "It shows 34 hours, but my cards show 42. I worked double on Sunday and came in early Monday for inventory." Now Derek looked up, his expression shifting to practiced patience. Sarah, the computer doesn't lie. Maybe you're misremembering your schedule. I have my punch receipts right here. I don't have time to walk through basic time management with you. If you're having trouble keeping track of your schedule, maybe you should consider a simpler job. Sarah felt heat rise in her cheeks, but kept her voice level. I keep detailed records. These numbers don't match. Derek's smile never reached his eyes. The numbers are what they are, Sarah. I suggest you focus on providing better service to our customers instead of questioning management decisions. As her shift ended, Sarah punched out at exactly 10:32 p.m. She noticed the mysterious customer at table 7 again, the same man from the night before, nursing another coffee, watching everything with those sharp, calculating eyes. When she brought his check, he looked up with genuine warmth. "Thank you for your excellent service," he said quietly, his voice carrying a respect Derek had never shown. "You clearly take pride in your work." Sarah smiled, the first genuine one since her confrontation with Derek. "I appreciate that. Really." Walking to her car, time card tucked safely in her purse, Sarah couldn't shake the feeling that something was about to change. She just didn't know whether it would be for better or worse. Thursday's dinner rush brought the usual chaos, but tonight felt different. Derek prowled the dining room like a predator, clipboard in hand, making notes with theatrical precision. Sarah noticed him timing her interactions, scrutinizing her table rotations, and whispering to the hostess while pointing in her direction. The breaking point came at 8:47 p.m. Sarah was delivering entrees to table 12, the elderly regulars who always requested her, when Derek's voice boomed across the dining room. "Sarah Washington, I need to see you at the register. Now." The entire restaurant seemed to pause. Conversations quieted. Servers stopped mid-stride. Even the kitchen noise seemed to dim as every eye turned toward them. Sarah's stomach dropped, but she maintained her professional smile. "I'll be right back with your extra sauce," she told her customers, setting down their plates with steady hands. Derek stood at the central register, her time card spread dramatically across the counter like evidence at a trial. His posture radiated authority, his voice pitched to carry across the dining room. "Explain this discrepancy to me," he demanded, jabbing his finger at the card. "You're claiming 43 hours this week, but I have documentation of you leaving early, taking extended breaks, and generally not meeting our productivity standards." Sarah glanced at the dining room. Every table had stopped eating. Her co-workers stood frozen, some avoiding eye contact, others watching with barely concealed alarm. The man at table 7, the quiet customer with the worn jacket, had abandoned all pretense of reading his newspaper. "I have my punch receipts," Sarah said quietly, reaching for her purse. "I don't want to see your receipts," Derek cut her off, his tone dripping with condescension. "I want to understand why someone with your background seems to have such difficulty following simple workplace policies." The word background hung in the air like a slur. Sarah felt her chest tighten but kept her voice steady. "My work speaks for itself. These customers," she gestured toward table 12, "request me specifically because they feel sorry for you." Derek's smile was cruel. "Sarah, customer service isn't about making people feel comfortable with your situation. It's about professionalism, something that apparently wasn't covered in your previous experience." Maria Gonzalez shifted uncomfortably behind the bar. The other servers found sudden interest in their prep work. The kitchen staff peered through the service window, sensing the tension but powerless to intervene. "I understand professionalism perfectly," Sarah replied, her nursing training helping her maintain clinical calm. "What I don't understand is why my documented hours keep changing in your system." Derek's face flushed. "Are you calling me a liar?" "I'm asking for clarification about a mathematical discrepancy." "Let me clarify something for you." Derek stepped closer, his voice dropping to a stage whisper that somehow carried further than shouting. "This restaurant has standards that maybe weren't emphasized wherever you worked before. Some people adapt to professional environments. Others, he shrugged meaningfully. Others find excuses. The racial coding was unmistakable now. Several customers shifted uncomfortably. The man at table 7 slowly folded his newspaper, his knuckles white. Sarah felt something crack inside her chest. Not her composure, but something deeper. The accumulated weight of 18 months of subtle digs, coded criticisms, and watching her white coworkers receive opportunities she was denied. "Derek," she said clearly, her voice carrying across the silent dining room, "my punch times are documented. My performance reviews are excellent. My customers specifically request me. If there's a problem with the computer system, we should fix it together. But if the problem is with me personally, I'd prefer you discuss it privately." Derek's eyes narrowed. "The problem, Sarah, is that some people think they can waltz in here with an attitude and expect special treatment, but this isn't that kind of establishment." "What kind of establishment is this exactly?" Sarah asked. For a moment, Derek looked like he might actually answer honestly. His mouth opened, then closed. The dining room held its collective breath. "The kind," he said finally, "where employees who can't handle feedback maybe should consider opportunities elsewhere. The kind where we don't tolerate disruption of service over petty complaints." He grabbed her time card and fed it into the computer terminal. 32 hours, final count. "And Sarah? Next time you have questions about your performance, handle them through proper channels. This public display is exactly the kind of behavioral issue that concerns corporate." The man at table 7 stood abruptly, his chair scraping against the floor. He placed a $20 bill on the table, triple his check total, and walked toward the exit. As he passed Sarah, he paused. "Miss Washington," he said quietly, his voice carrying unexpected warmth, "your service tonight was impeccable. Don't let anyone convince you otherwise." Then he was gone, leaving behind a dining room full of uncomfortable silence and a young woman whose world had just shifted on its axis. Marcus Wellington sat in his Tesla in the Champions Table parking lot, his hands gripping the steering wheel until his knuckles ached. 23 years building a restaurant empire, and he'd just witnessed one of his managers publicly humiliate an employee with barely concealed racial hostility. The irony wasn't lost on him. He'd spent the week reviewing acquisition reports for potential expansion sites, staying in Austin's finest hotel, dining at establishments that charged more for an appetizer than Sarah probably made in tips. Tonight, he'd chosen his own restaurant for a quiet dinner, curious to see operations from a customer's perspective. He'd expected decent food and professional service. He hadn't expected to watch systematic abuse disguised as management. His phone buzzed, a text from his assistant about tomorrow's board meeting. Marcus stared at the message without reading it. All he could see was Sarah's face. The moment of shock when Derek used that loaded word, background. The careful control as she maintained her dignity while being torn down in public. The quiet professionalism she'd shown even as her world crumbled. 3 restaurants down from his car, the Champions Table's neon sign buzzed and flickered. Corporate headquarters had recommended Derek for his efficiency improvements and cost control measures. The man had increased profit margins by 12% across all 8 locations in the past year. Marcus had approved his bonus personally. Now he understood how those savings were achieved. His phone rang. Richard Carter, his operations director. "Marcus, how's Austin? Ready for tomorrow's acquisition meeting?" Marcus watched Derek through the restaurant window, gesturing animatedly while talking to another server. "Richard, what do you know about Derek Thompson?" "Thompson? Great manager. Turned around the Austin location, implemented cost controls that were rolling out system-wide. Why?" "His employee retention rates?" "Higher than average, actually. Though there's been some turnover in certain demographics. Nothing unusual for the service industry." Marcus closed his eyes. "Send me his complete file. Personnel records, performance reviews, everything." "Tonight? Marcus, is there a problem?" "There might be. I need a complete background on him by morning. And Richard? This stays between us. After hanging up, Marcus sat in the darkness, making calculations. If Derek was manipulating timesheets systematically, if his efficiency gains came from wage theft, if his cost controls specifically targeted employees of color, this wasn't just one manager's prejudice. This was a liability that could destroy everything Marcus had built. But it was more than that. The way Sarah had treated him, a seemingly broke customer nursing coffee for hours, with genuine warmth and respect, had reminded him why he'd entered the hospitality industry in the first place. To create spaces where people felt valued, both as customers and employees. He pulled up Sarah's employee file on his phone. 18 months with the company. Excellent customer reviews. Perfect attendance until recently. Currently enrolled in nursing school at UT. Emergency contact. Keisha Washington, age 16, sister. Marcus made his decision. The next morning, he canceled his board meeting and drove to a Goodwill store in East Austin. He bought worn jeans, a faded UT sweatshirt, and scuffed work boots. At a nearby barbershop, he asked for the shortest cut they could manage. His Rolex went into a safety deposit box, replaced by a $20 Timex. Looking in the mirror of his hotel bathroom, Marcus barely recognized himself. The expensive haircut was gone. The confident posture had shifted to something more humble, more uncertain. He practiced his story. Laid off from a manufacturing job, apartment hunting, surviving on unemployment and odd jobs. By noon, he was Marcus Williams, a name close enough to his own that he'd respond naturally. He walked into the Champions Table's lunch rush and asked to speak with the manager about possible employment. Derek Thompson looked him up and down with obvious disdain. "We're not hiring right now." "I'd take anything," Marcus said, letting a note of desperation creep into his voice. "Dishwasher, busboy, whatever you need." Derek's smile was cold. "Fill out an application. We'll call if anything opens up." But Marcus had seen something in Derek's eyes, the same calculating look he'd given Sarah before destroying her in public. Whatever game Derek was playing, Marcus was now a player. He just had to make sure he survived long enough to learn the rules. Derek called Marcus the next afternoon. "The dishwasher position opened up. $7.50 an hour, cash under the table. You start tonight." Marcus arrived at 4 p.m., wearing his Goodwill uniform and practicing his desperate-for-work demeanor. The Champions Table's kitchen was smaller than he'd expected, cramped and steamy, with industrial dishwashers that looked older than his car. "Marcus, right?" Sarah appeared with a tub of dirty plates, her smile genuine despite the chaos around them. "I'm Sarah." Derek said, "You're new." "Yeah, thanks. Still figuring everything out." "Don't worry," she said, loading plates into the machine. "Everyone here looks out for each other. Well, most of us anyway." Her tone carried weight that Marcus filed away for later analysis. The first hour revealed standard restaurant chaos. Rushed orders, spilled drinks, the usual dinner rush intensity. But Marcus noticed patterns that corporate spreadsheets had never shown him. Derek moved through the kitchen like a shark, his presence causing visible tension among the staff. Servers straightened unconsciously when he approached. The predominantly Latino kitchen crew found urgent tasks whenever he wandered near. At 7:30, Marcus watched Derek approach Sarah at the coffee station. "Your section's running behind," Derek announced loudly enough for nearby tables to hear. "Table 6 has been waiting 12 minutes for their appetizer." "Their order went in 8 minutes ago," Sarah replied calmly. "Kitchen's backed up from that large party." "I don't want excuses, Sarah. I want solutions. Maybe if you spent less time chatting and more time working." Derek's eyes flicked toward Marcus, then back to Sarah. "Some people understand urgency. Others need constant supervision." Marcus felt his jaw clench as Derek walked away, leaving Sarah to handle the customer complaints generated by his public criticism. 2 hours later, Marcus discovered why Derek preferred cash payments for dishwashers. The time clock system was rigged. "Hey, Marcus," called Tony, one of the line cooks. "You need to punch out for your break, then punch back in when you're done. But don't actually take the break, just keep working." Derek counts unpaid break time as efficiency. What if someone complains? Tony laughed bitterly. To who? Derek runs this place like his personal kingdom. You complain, you're gone. Simple math. Marcus punched out at 9:15, then continued washing dishes for another 30 minutes before punching back in. The system showed a 15-minute break that never happened. Free labor disguised as time management. During the 10 p.m. closing routine, the discrimination became impossible to ignore. Derek assigned deep cleaning duties with surgical precision. Sarah and Maria scrubbed floors on hands and knees while white servers restocked salt shakers and counted silverware. Carlos and Miguel, despite being experienced line cooks, were relegated to garbage duty and grease trap cleaning, while the newer white prep cook handled inventory. This is how it always is, Sarah said quietly, working beside Marcus to clean the massive floor mats. Somehow the hardest closing work always falls to the same people. Doesn't anyone complain? Sarah glanced around nervously. Maria tried once. Derek cut her hours by half the next week, said she wasn't adapting to team expectations. She's got 3 kids. She couldn't afford to push it. Marcus filed away another piece of evidence while scrubbing industrial mats that should have been replaced months ago. The real revelation came during his second week. Marcus had convinced Derek to let him cover some server shifts during understaffed lunch periods, a perfect opportunity to observe customer interactions and credit card processing. What he discovered made his blood run cold. Derek had installed a secondary card reader at the main register, hidden beneath the legitimate terminal. When processing cards for elderly customers, or anyone who seemed unfamiliar with technology, he'd swipe twice. Once for the actual transaction, once for data harvesting. Marcus watched Derek process a credit card for an elderly man celebrating his anniversary with his wife. Swipe 1, $73.50 for dinner. Swipe 2, complete account information captured for later use. The couple left a generous tip and anniversary smiles, never knowing their financial security had just been compromised. Efficient system, right? Derek materialized beside Marcus with predatory satisfaction. Streamlined processing keeps the line moving. Absolutely, Marcus managed, fighting the urge to grab Derek by the throat. That evening, Sarah approached Marcus during the closing cleanup. She looked exhausted, her usual professionalism frayed around the edges. Can I ask you something? She said quietly, glancing around to ensure they weren't overheard. You seem different from most people who work here, more aware of things. Marcus chose his words carefully. Just trying to figure out how everything works. Sarah nodded slowly. My sister Keisha has asthma, bad asthma. The insurance through this job is supposed to cover her inhalers, but Derek keeps finding reasons to cut my hours just below the threshold for full benefits. 32 hours gets partial coverage. 35 gets full coverage. Somehow I always end up with 31 or 32. She looked directly at Marcus, her eyes bright with unshed tears. I work doubles. I cover other people's shifts. I've never called in sick. But every week, something gets adjusted, something gets missed, and my hours drop just enough to keep Keisha rationing her medication. Marcus felt something cold and furious settle in his stomach. That's not a coincidence. No, Sarah said simply. It's not. The next day brought Marcus face to face with the scope of Derek's operation. He was emptying trash near Derek's office when he heard a phone conversation that made him freeze. Thursday's package is ready, Derek was saying. 43 accounts, mix of demographics, all verified active, same rate as usual. A pause. No issues with employee interference. I've got systems in place to handle potential problems. The key is maintaining the right workforce dynamics. People focused on survival don't ask inconvenient questions. Another pause. Then Derek's laugh, cold and calculating. Trust me, the margin improvements aren't just from labor efficiencies, though those help keep the books clean. Marcus realized Derek wasn't just stealing wages and harvesting credit card data. He was using workplace intimidation to silence potential witnesses. Employees fighting for basic survival couldn't risk investigating suspicious activity. The pattern became clear. Derek systematically targeted employees of color with wage theft and scheduling manipulation, creating financial desperation that prevented them from questioning other irregularities. Meanwhile, he skimmed customer financial data to fund a secondary income stream, using the restaurant as cover for organized identity theft. On Friday night, Marcus watched Derek process the week's credit card settlements. The legitimate transactions went through normal banking channels, but a second batch, the harvested data, was transferred to encrypted files and prepared for sale to an unknown buyer. As Marcus scrubbed dishes and calculated the scope of Derek's crimes, he realized this wasn't just about one corrupt manager. This was about a system that allowed workplace cruelty to flourish while financial crimes operated in the shadows. Sarah appeared beside him with another load of dishes, her smile tired but genuine. "You know," she said quietly, "working with you has been the best part of this job lately. It's nice having someone around who treats people like they matter." Marcus looked at her. This young woman fighting to care for her sister, studying nursing while enduring daily humiliation, maintaining her dignity despite systematic abuse, and made his final decision. Derek Thompson's reign of terror was about to end. But first, Marcus needed proof that would stick. Monday night's discovery changed everything. Marcus had volunteered for the Monday closing shift, knowing Derek typically handled weekly financial reconciliation alone. The restaurant emptied by 10:30, leaving only Marcus, Derek, and a skeleton crew finishing the deep clean. "Marcus, you're working out better than expected," Derek said, counting the night's receipts. "Most dishwashers don't show this kind of initiative." "Just trying to learn the business," Marcus replied, emptying trash bins near Derek's office. "Maybe work my way up someday." Derek's smile was patronizing. "Ambition's good, though management positions require certain qualities, education, cultural fit. You understand." While Derek focused on his computer, Marcus noticed the office door had been left open, unusual for the normally secretive manager. Through the gap, he could see Derek's desk, where a USB drive sat connected to his laptop alongside several file folders marked Employee Records, Confidential. Derek stepped away to check the kitchen's closing progress, leaving his computer unattended. Marcus seized his chance. Moving quickly, he slipped into the office and positioned himself where he could see the screen. What he found made his blood freeze. The spreadsheet displayed two columns, official hours and adjusted hours. Sarah's name appeared repeatedly, showing systematic reductions that had cost her thousands in wages over 6 months. Maria Gonzalez showed similar discrepancies. Carlos from the kitchen had lost nearly 40 hours of documented overtime, but it was worse than simple wage theft. A second file contained detailed profiles of targeted employees. Sarah's entry read, Washington S., nursing student, sister with medical needs, high financial pressure, unlikely to pursue legal action, reduce hours to maintain partial benefits threshold, monitor for compliance issues. Maria's file. Gonzalez, M. Single mother, 3 dependents, limited English, excellent leverage for policy compliance, assign maximum physical labor to discourage complaints. Each profile calculated the exact amount of financial pressure needed to ensure silence. Marcus heard Derek's footsteps returning and quickly moved to empty the office trash. His heart pounded as Derek resumed his position, oblivious to the discovery. Financial reconciliation's the most important part of management, Derek said conversationally, making sure all the numbers add up properly. Corporate appreciates attention to detail. Derek opened another folder, this one filled with customer credit card information. Names, numbers, addresses, spending patterns, all meticulously organized. Marcus recognized several customers from his serving shifts, including the elderly anniversary couple and a regular who'd mentioned his upcoming surgery. Derek, I'm curious, Marcus said carefully. What kind of reports does a corporation want? Oh, the usual. Labor costs, transaction volumes, customer data analytics. Derek's fingers flew across the keyboard. Though some data streams are more specialized more than others. Derek pulled up an email draft addressed to someone called Data Harvest Solutions. The subject line read, Austin Package, Week 44, 67 Premium Accounts. The email body contained a price list. Senior citizens, $150 per profile. High credit customers, $200. Business accounts, $300. Medical insurance customers, $250. Marcus realized he was looking at a menu for selling stolen identities. Derek attached the USB drive contents to the email. Complete financial profiles for 67 unsuspecting customers, their personal information about to be sold to criminals for identity theft. The beauty of the restaurant business, Derek continued, is the data access. People trust you with their payment information, never suspecting it might have secondary applications. Marcus forced himself to remain calm while Derek scheduled the email for tomorrow morning's send. The man was discussing identity theft like menu planning. But the worst revelation came when Derek opened a folder marked Risk Management. Inside were audio recordings, conversations between Derek and employees who'd questioned policies or raised complaints. Sarah's voice, asking about her timesheet discrepancies. Maria requested fair work distribution. Carlos inquiring about overtime policies. Each conversation had been secretly recorded, then annotated with Derek's analysis. Subject shows resistance to authority. Recommend increased pressure tactics. Subject demonstrates potential whistleblower behavior. Monitor for termination opportunity. Derek had been building files to destroy anyone who threatened his operation. The final piece of evidence sat in Derek's desk drawer. A second set of books showing the restaurant's actual financial performance versus what was reported to corporate. The numbers revealed systematic embezzlement, fake vendor payments, inflated supply costs, and phantom employee hours that generated ghost payroll for Derek's personal accounts. Marcus also discovered Derek was skimming cash payments, underreporting daily receipts, and claiming false tax deductions. The manager had turned the champion's table into a money laundering operation disguised as improved efficiency. Corporate's been impressed with our cost reductions, Derek said, finalizing his computer work. They're actually considering expanding my oversight to all 8 locations. Same systems, same results. The scope hit Marcus like a physical blow. Derek wasn't just stealing from one restaurant. He was positioning himself to implement this criminal enterprise across the entire chain. Hundreds of employees would face systematic abuse. Thousands of customers would have their financial information sold to identity thieves. That sounds like a big opportunity, Marcus managed. The key, Derek said, locking his desk drawer, is understanding that people are resources to be optimized. Employees, customers, data streams, all revenue sources if managed properly. He stood and stretched, completely relaxed in his criminality. The challenge is maintaining operational security, making sure the right people stay quiet, while the wrong people are encouraged to find opportunities elsewhere. Derek began shutting down his computer, but not before Marcus caught one final detail. A calendar reminder for Thursday morning reading, Phoenix meeting, expand operations discussion. Derek was planning to take his criminal model nationwide. As they finished closing procedures, Marcus felt the weight of what he'd discovered. This wasn't just workplace harassment or even simple fraud. It was organized criminal enterprise operating under the cover of restaurant management. Sarah appeared from the kitchen, her shift finally complete, exhaustion etched in every line of her face. "Good night, Marcus," she said softly. "Thanks for making these long days a little easier to handle." Marcus watched her gather her nursing textbooks and head to the parking lot, knowing that Derek's files contained detailed plans to destroy her if she ever became a threat to his operation. But Derek had made one crucial mistake in his risk assessment. He'd never imagined that the quiet dishwasher learning his systems was actually the man with the power to shut down everything he'd built. Marcus had his smoking gun. Now he needed to load it carefully because he would only get one shot at bringing down Derek's empire before it spread beyond control. Tuesday morning, Marcus made two crucial phone calls. The first was to FBI agent Linda Rodriguez. "Linda, I need a meeting. Today. I have evidence of organized identity theft, systematic wage violations, and RICO-level criminal enterprise." The second was to his head of security. "Coordinated operation for Thursday evening. Full documentation, law enforcement liaison, witness protection." By Thursday, everything was in place. Marcus arrived for his regular 4 p.m. shift carrying a small recording device. FBI surveillance teams posed as customers throughout the dining room. At 6 p.m., he found Sarah restocking supplies. "I need to talk to you privately. What I have to tell you, it's important." It's the back alley Marcus faced the hardest conversation of his life. "Sarah, before what's about to happen, I need you to know who I really am." He pulled out his business card, his real one. "My name is Marcus Wellington. I own the Champions Table, all 8 locations." Sarah stared at the card, her hands trembling. "That's not possible. You needed this job." "I came here because I witnessed Derek's abuse last week. I've been working undercover for 2 weeks, gathering evidence." Marcus's voice softened. "What Derek's been doing isn't just harassment. It's organized crime, identity theft, embezzlement, systematic wage fraud." Sarah leaned against the brick wall, processing the revelation. "You let me tell you about my sister's medication while you could have fixed it with one phone call. I needed to understand the full scope before acting. If I'd intervened immediately, Derek would have destroyed evidence and moved his operation elsewhere." "What happens now?" "Now Derek faces consequences for what he's done to you and everyone else." They returned as the dinner rush peaked. At 7:45 p.m., Agent Rodriguez entered with her partner, taking a table in Sarah's section. Derek seemed to sense something ending. His harassment of Sarah became more blatant, more public. "Sarah, Table 12 is complaining about slow service again," Derek announced loudly. "Maybe you should focus on your actual job instead of chatting." Sarah had been taking another table's order. "I was serving Table 9. Table 12 received their appetizers 6 minutes ago." "I don't want excuses. Maybe someone with your background should stick to simpler establishments." The racist implication drew uncomfortable stares from customers. Agent Rodriguez caught Marcus's eye and nodded. At 8:15 p.m., Derek made his fatal mistake. Sarah approached him about a customer complaint. Table 6 had received the wrong entree. "Sarah, I'm tired of your constant problems," Derek said, his voice carrying across the dining room. "Every shift, some issue, some excuse. Maybe it's time we discussed whether this position suits someone with your limitations." "What limitations would those be, Derek?" "Cultural differences, educational background, basic understanding of professional standards." The restaurant went quiet. Every customer, every employee was listening. Sarah stood straighter. "Derek, I understand professional standards perfectly. What I don't understand is why you think racism disguised as management is acceptable." Derek's face flushed. "How dare you play that card when your performance is excellent," Agent Rodriguez interrupted, displaying her credentials. "FBI! Derek Thompson, you're under arrest for computer fraud, wire fraud, racketeering, and conspiracy to commit identity theft." The dining room erupted. Derek's face went white. "This is insane. I'm the manager here. Where's the owner?" "You are speaking to the owner," Marcus said, stepping forward and removing his apron. "Marcus Wellington, CEO of Wellington Restaurant Group. I've been documenting your criminal operation for 2 weeks. Derek's mouth opened and closed soundlessly. "That's impossible. You're nobody. The man who recorded your wage theft, data harvesting, and plans to expand this operation company-wide," Marcus continued. Agent Rodriguez moved to Derek's side. "Hands behind your back." "No! I've increased profits. Corporate loves my numbers." Corporate loves criminal proceeds? Marcus asked. You've stolen $40,000 in wages, compromised hundreds of customers' financial security, created a hostile work environment targeting employees of color. Handcuffs clicked as Derek struggled. Sarah, tell them about your attitude problems, your complaints. Derek, Sarah said quietly, her voice carrying absolute authority. The only thing I can't handle is watching you destroy good people for profit. As Derek was led away, he made one last desperate attempt. Wellington, you don't understand the profit margins. I understand exploitation disguised as management, Marcus replied. Human dignity isn't a line item to be optimized. The restaurant buzzed as news crews arrived. Marcus addressed the dining room. Any customers who used credit cards here will be contacted about identity monitoring. Your safety is our priority. In the chaos, Marcus found Sarah standing with quiet strength. Are you okay? She looked up at him. This man who'd washed dishes beside her while secretly wielding power to change everything. Ask me tomorrow. Tonight I just want to process that the nightmare is finally over. Friday morning brought Marcus to the champions table at 8 a.m. He found Sarah already there, nursing coffee and studying textbooks in the break room. Couldn't sleep either? She asked. Too much to process. Marcus sat across from her. Sarah, I want to apologize. Not for stopping Derek, but for how long it took. For letting you suffer while gathering evidence. How long did you know? I suspected wage theft after week 1. Knew about discrimination by day 10. The full criminal scope took time to uncover safely. Sarah nodded slowly. I hate that you're right about needing proof. At 9 a.m., Marcus gathered all 13 employees in the dining room. Many looked nervous about their job security. First, everyone keeps their positions with immediate raises to market standard, Marcus announced. Second, full restitution for stolen wages. Derek stole over $40,000 collectively. Maria raised her hand. What about benefits lost to our cuts? Full benefits restored retroactively. Medical expenses due to Derek's manipulation will be reimbursed, including prescriptions and delayed treatments. Sarah's eyes filled with tears at the mention of prescription costs. Third, we're restructuring management. No single person controls scheduling, payroll, and personnel. We're creating checks and balances. Carlos asked, Who's the new manager? Marcus had considered this all night. I'm offering the general manager position to Sarah Washington with full training and support. Silence. Sarah stared in shock. Me? I don't have management experience. You have integrity, leadership, and understanding of what powerlessness feels like. Most MBA programs can't teach that. My nursing degree? We'll accommodate your schedule. Wellington Restaurant Group will pay your remaining tuition. Applause erupted, led by Maria. Sarah covered her face, overwhelmed. Afterward, Marcus and Sarah redesigned operational systems in her new office. Transparent scheduling first, Sarah said, her shock replaced by focused determination. No mysterious hour cuts or punishment schedules. What else? Anonymous reporting system bypassing local management, third-party discrimination oversight. Marcus added, mandatory diversity training for managers, real education, not corporate theater. They designed employee advocacy programs, wage auditing systems, and career development for underrepresented workers. Sarah, what would have made the difference these past months? Sarah considered carefully. Knowing someone was watching to protect us, not exploit us. Believing excellence would be recognized regardless of who demonstrated it. Then that's what we build. By evening, they'd created comprehensive reforms. Monday brought Marcus's corporate leadership meeting. We're implementing these changes company-wide, he announced to his directors. Every location gets identical oversight and protections. Operations Director Richard looked concerned. Marcus, the costs, training, oversight, restitution. Derek's efficiency gains came from criminal activity. This isn't an expense, it's a correction. HR asked, "What about other managers using similar tactics?" Full audits of all locations, anonymous surveys, third-party investigations. Any manager exploiting workers faces termination and prosecution. Wednesday, Sarah started management training while maintaining nursing classes. Marcus watched her lead the lunch meeting with natural authority, treating employees with consistent respect. "How's it going?" he asked during afternoon check-in. "Challenging. But Marcus? For the first time in 18 months, I'm not afraid to come to work. Neither is anyone else." The transformation was visible. Employees made eye contact, conversed openly during breaks, and joked between stations. Customer service improved when workers weren't focused on survival. Thursday brought Sarah's first major test. A customer became abusive toward Maria, demanding to speak with someone in charge who speaks proper English. Marcus watched Sarah approach with calm authority. "Sir, I'm the manager. Maria is excellent and has 3 years' experience. If you're unsatisfied with your meal, we'll address that. If you're unsatisfied with our staff's heritage, find another restaurant." The customer left. The staff applauded. Sarah had handled it with grace Derek never possessed. Friday evening, Marcus found Sarah designing fair shift schedules after closing. "A week ago, I feared Derek would fire me over 8 missing hours," she said. "Tonight, I'm designing a policy for 8 restaurants." "How does it feel?" Sarah leaned back, considering. "Like justice isn't just punishment. It's ensuring the next person doesn't endure what I did." "Exactly right. You're proving leadership can heal instead of harm." "My nursing training helps. Both jobs are about helping people recover and become stronger." As Marcus left that night, he reflected on the transformation. Derek's arrest was satisfying, but Sarah's empowerment, watching her evolve from victim to leader, felt like true victory. The champion's table finally lived up to its name. 3 weeks after Derek's arrest, Sarah's transformation was evident in every interaction. Marcus watched her conduct Monday's staff meeting with growing confidence. "Maria, I've scheduled you for lunch shift to accommodate your daughter's pickup," Sarah announced, consulting the transparent scheduling system. "Carlos, your POS training starts Thursday." The staff responded differently now. No one flinched when Sarah approached. Eyes met hers directly. Conversations flowed naturally, instead of stopping when management appeared. "Questions about this week's schedule?" Sarah asked. Tony raised his hand. "Could we discuss the break room renovation? Those chairs are falling apart." Under Derek, such suggestions met sarcasm or dismissal. Sarah nodded thoughtfully. "Absolutely. Let's form a committee. Maria, would you coordinate? You use that space most." After the meeting, Sarah pulled Marcus aside. "I have an employee development idea." In her office, Sarah outlined her proposal. Mentorship pairs. Experienced employees guide newer ones, not just job tasks, but career development, conflict resolution, financial literacy. "Tell me more." "Maria's been here 3 years but never offered advancement. She's brilliant with customers and could handle assistant manager duties. Carlos knows kitchen operations better than anyone, but Derek kept him on basic tasks." Sarah's voice gained momentum. "Let's stop wasting the talent we have." "Do it," Marcus said immediately. "Document everything. If it works, we will go company-wide." 2 days later, Marcus found Carlos running the lunch kitchen with quiet authority. Orders flowed smoothly. Stress seemed manageable. "How's it going?" Marcus asked. Carlos grinned, the first smile Marcus had seen from him. "Better than I imagined." Sarah asked what I needed to succeed, then listened. In the dining room, Maria shadowed Sarah, learning scheduling software and conflict resolution. When a customer complained, Sarah let Maria handle it. "Sir, I understand your frustration about the wait," Maria said calmly. Let me explain what happened and how we're fixing it. Marcus watched Maria transform from someone who hid from confrontation under Derek to confident problem solver under Sarah's mentorship. Thursday brought the most touching moment. Keisha Washington visited the restaurant for the first time since Sarah's promotion. "You're really the manager now?" the 16-year-old asked, looking around with wonder. "I really am," Sarah replied, pride evident. "And insurance covers my inhalers completely?" "Completely. No more rationing medication, no more choosing between groceries and prescriptions." Keisha hugged her sister tightly. "I'm so proud of you." Marcus watched Sarah show Keisha around, introducing co-workers who now treated Sarah with genuine respect instead of fearful deference. "This is Maria, my assistant manager in training. Carlos runs kitchen operations. They're why this place works." Friday's staff meeting revealed a workplace community Marcus had never seen in his restaurants. "The customers at table 12 left this note," Tony announced, holding up a handwritten card. "They said service has never been this good." "That's because you're all free to do your jobs properly," Sarah replied. "When people aren't afraid of humiliation for asking questions, amazing things happen." She addressed the full staff. "A month ago, we walked on eggshells, afraid to speak up, watching each other get torn down. Look at us now." Marcus scanned the room. Maria studying for management certification, Carlos confidently training a new prep cook, Tony developing a server handbook, employees actually laughing during shift changes. "Leadership isn't about having power over people," Sarah continued. "It's about using whatever power you have to lift others up." After the meeting, Sarah approached Marcus. "My grades improved this semester. Easier to focus on anatomy when you're not constantly stressed about losing your job." "How much longer until graduation?" 18 months. But I've been thinking, what if I could do both? Finish nursing school and continue restaurant management? Healthcare and hospitality aren't different. Both care for people when they're vulnerable." "What would that look like?" "Day shifts here, evening classes, summer hospital internships, graduate with dual expertise." "Sarah, you could revolutionize employee wellness company-wide." That evening, as closing wrapped up, Marcus reflected on the changes. Derek's efficiency came from fear and exploitation. Sarah's effectiveness came from empowerment and respect. The numbers proved it. 0 employee turnover, 15% increase in customer satisfaction, improved productivity as people worked with purpose instead of panic. But the real measure was simpler. For the first time in months, Marcus heard genuine laughter coming from his restaurant's kitchen. 6 months later, Marcus stood in the Austin Champions table watching Sarah lead a training session for new managers from all 8 locations. Her confidence had transformed completely. Gone was the young woman who'd trembled while questioning payroll discrepancies, replaced by a leader who commanded respect through competence and compassion. "The most important thing to remember," Sarah told the group of 6 managers, "is that your employees are watching how you treat the most vulnerable person on your team. That treatment sets the standard for your entire workplace culture." Maria nodded from the back of the room, now assistant manager and 3 weeks away from completing her management certification. Carlos had been promoted to head chef and was designing new employee wellness initiatives based on Sarah's healthcare background. The transformation had spread beyond Austin. Company-wide, employee turnover dropped 60%. Customer satisfaction reached record highs. Anonymous surveys revealed workplace environments where people felt valued rather than exploited. Most importantly, the whistleblower protection systems worked. 2 managers at other locations had been terminated and prosecuted for wage theft after employees felt safe reporting violations. During her lunch break, Sarah approached Marcus with familiar warmth. "You know what I realized yesterday? I haven't checked my bank account obsessively in months. I haven't rationed Keisha's medication once. I sleep through the night." "How's nursing school?" "Perfect grades this semester. Turns out learning is easier when you're not constantly stressed about survival." Sarah smiled. I graduate next month. UT offered me a position in their healthcare administration program, part-time, so I can continue here. Marcus watched her head back to work, greeting each employee by name, checking on their well-being with genuine care. The nervous, exploited waitress had become exactly the kind of leader the hospitality industry desperately needed. That evening, an elderly customer left a $20 tip on a $12 check, along with a note. Thank you for treating us like family. This is how restaurants should be. Sarah picked up the crumpled 20 and smiled, remembering the night this all began, when a seemingly broke customer had shown her more respect in one interaction than Derek had in 18 months. Real change happens when ordinary people refuse to accept that unfairness is just how things work. It happens when someone with power chooses to use it responsibly, and it happens when victims become voices for others still suffering in silence. If you've experienced wage theft, workplace discrimination, or systematic abuse at your job, know your rights. Document everything. Speak up when safe to do so. Your voice matters, and you're not alone. Share your story in the comments. Sometimes the first step toward justice is simply refusing to stay quiet about injustice.
At Black Voices Uncut, we don't polish away the pain or water down the message. We tell it like it is because the truth deserves nothing less. If today's story spoke to you, click like, join the conversation in the comments, and subscribe so you'll be here for the next Uncut Voice.